Hi, I'm Marc, and on this channel I talk about Brexit and UK politics. And Brexit should finally bring an advantage. The British Prime Minister not only wants a free trade pact with India, but also with the USA. In doing so, he risks an outcry, though. In the best of all worlds, Rishi Sunak would have flown to India next week. The British Prime Minister met his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi there and announced a very special deal on the day of the Cricket World Cup match between England and India. A free trade agreement with Delhi. At least that was the plan that the British and Indian governments came up with. Yeah, but nothing comes of it. The negotiations are deadlocked. So Sunak will have no choice but to keep working to make it work. And not just with India, but also with the USA, which is far out. Because Rishi Sunak's plans for trade deals with India and the USA are currently in progress, with both deals facing their own unique challenges. The UK-India trade deal has been under negotiation for over a year, with both sides aiming to finalize an agreement by the end of 2023. However, there are still several outstanding issues that need to be resolved. India is seeking greater access to UK visas for its citizens, particularly for skilled workers and students. The UK government is wary of opening up its borders too much, but it may need to make some concessions in order to secure a deal. And India is seeking to protect its agricultural sector from UK imports, while the UK is seeking to reduce tariffs on its goods. This is a delicate issue, as both sides are keen to protect their domestic industries. Despite these challenges, both sides are committed to reaching a deal, and there is still a good chance that an agreement can be reached by the end of the year. Sunak and the British had other deals that were not so good for Britain. But while a trade deal between the UK and India could bring potential benefits, there are also potential downsides that need to be carefully considered. And there are some key concerns. A trade deal with India could expose certain UK industries to increased competition from cheaper Indian imports. This could lead to job losses and a decline in certain sectors, particularly in manufacturing and agriculture. India has different food safety standards than the UK, and there are concerns that a trade deal could lead to the import of food products that do not meet UK standards. And this could pose a risk to consumer health and could also undermine UK farmers who adhere to stricter standards. India has a significant informal economy where workers' rights are not, let's say, always protected. And there are concerns that a trade deal could lead to the exploitation of Indian workers, particularly in industries such as textiles and agriculture. And India has less stringent environmental regulations than the UK, and there are concerns that a trade deal could lead to increased pollution and environmental damage. And of course, this could undermine the UK's commitment to sustainability. Increased trade and economic ties with India could also lead to increased immigration from India to the UK. This could put pressure on public services and could also lead to social tensions. India has a history of intellectual property violations as well, and there are concerns that a trade deal could make it harder for UK businesses to protect their intellectual property rights in India. As I said, while a trade deal with India could bring economic benefits, it is crucial to carefully consider these potential downsides and ensure that any agreement protects UK industries, workers, consumers, and of course, not to forget the environment. And the UK-USA trade deal is also in discussion, but it's facing different challenges. The main obstacle is the UK's decision to leave the EU, which has complicated the negotiations. And the USA is also concerned about the UK's plans to diverge from EU regulations, which could create barriers to trade. There are several reasons why it is improbable that the UK will secure a comprehensive trade deal with the USA in the near future. And as I said, the UK's decision to leave the EU has complicated trade negotiations with the USA. The USA had previously negotiated trade deals with the EU as a union, and now it has to negotiate with the UK separately if they want to. And this has added complexity and uncertainty to the process. And the UK's plans to diverge from EU regulation I mentioned in certain areas such as food safety and environmental standards have also raised concerns in the USA, not to talk about Biden and his Ireland connection. The USA is wary of entering into a trade deal that could create barriers to trade or undermine its own regulatory standards. The Biden administration is currently focused on domestic priorities such as infrastructure and climate change, and may not have the political bandwidth to prioritize a trade deal with the UK. Additionally, the US Congress has shown reluctance to approve new trade deals in recent years, especially because of Ireland. And the UK is already the USA's seventh largest trading partner, and both countries enjoy relatively low tariffs on goods traded between them. This means that there is less urgency to reach a comprehensive trade deal, as the current trading relationship is already relatively beneficial. The USA is currently engaged in trade negotiations with other countries such as Japan and India, which may take precedence over a deal with the UK as well. And the USA may also be waiting to see how the UK's trade relationship with the EU develops before committing to its own deal. While a trade deal between the UK and the USA is not impossible in the long term, it is unlikely to happen in the near future due to these various factors. Both countries will need to overcome these challenges and find a common ground on key issues before a comprehensive trade deal can be reached. And Rishi Sunak also faces resistance within his own party, the Conservative Party, regarding the trade deal negotiations both with India and the USA for several reasons. Some Conservative MPs are concerned that Sunak is making too many concessions to India and the USA in order to secure trade deals. They worry that this could weaken the UK's negotiating position and lead to unfavorable terms for British businesses and consumers. We've seen that with Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. Some Conservative MPs are concerned that the trade deals could harm certain British industries, such as agriculture again. They argue that the government should prioritise protecting domestic industries over securing trade deals. Some Conservative MPs are concerned that the trade deals could lead to increased immigration from India as well. They argue that the government should focus on reducing immigration rather than increasing it. And some Conservative MPs are ideologically opposed to trade deals with countries outside of Europe. They believe that the UK should focus on strengthening its ties with its European neighbours rather than pursuing trade deals with countries further afield. These concerns are, of course, not shared by all Conservative MPs, and there is still a significant amount of support for Sunak's trade agenda within the party. However, the resistance he faces is a reminder of the challenges of negotiating trade deals in a post-Brexit world. And chlorinated chicken has become a symbol of the concerns that some Conservative MPs have about trade deals with countries that have lower food safety standards than the UK. The practice of washing chicken carcasses with chlorine is banned in the UK and the EU, by the way, but it is common in the United States. Those who oppose trade deals with countries that use chlorinated chicken argue that it is a symbol of lower food safety standards and that importing such products could put British consumers at risk. They also argue that it could undermine British farmers who are held to higher standards. The issue of chlorinated chicken has been particularly contentious in the context of a potential trade deal with the USA. Some Conservative MPs have warned that they would not support a deal that allowed the import of chlorinated chicken into the UK. The government has insisted that it will not lower UK food safety standards in order to secure trade deals. However, the issue of chlorinated chicken remains a sensitive one, and it is likely to continue to be a source of resistance to trade deals within the Conservative Party. As a member of the EU, the UK was part of trade deals with countries around the world. When the UK left, it also left these trade deals. The UK has since been working to negotiate new trade deals with these countries, but this process has been slow and complex. As of October 23, when I'm filming this, the UK has signed new trade deals with 71 countries, but many of these are rollover deals that replicate the terms of the EU's existing agreements, or even worse. The UK is still in negotiations with several other countries, including the USA and India I mentioned earlier. However, it's unlikely that these deals will be as comprehensive or beneficial as the deals that the UK had as a member of the EU. In addition to losing the benefits of existing trade deals, Brexit has also made it more difficult for UK businesses to trade with EU countries. This is because the UK is no longer part of the EU single market and the customs union. As a result, UK businesses now face additional paperwork, checks, and tariffs when exporting to or importing from the EU. And the full impact of Brexit on UK trade is still not there because there's some checks still coming and stuff. But it's clear that the UK has lost some of the benefits of EU membership. The UK government is hoping that new trade deals with other countries will make up for some of these losses, but that seriously remains to be seen. But size does matter here, and let's take the Japan deal as an example. The UK-Japan Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, the so-called CEPA, which came into effect in January 21, has been criticized for being less beneficial to the UK than the EU-Japan Economic Partnership Agreement, the EPA, which entered into force in February 2019. And there are a few things you can compare. Both agreements aim to eliminate tariffs on most goods traded between the respective parties. However, the EU-Japan EPA offers a more comprehensive tariff reduction schedule, with almost all tariffs being eliminated immediately or within a few years. The UK-Japan CEPA, on the other hand, has a longer phase-out period for some tariffs, particularly in the agricultural sector. And both agreements protect GIs, which are distinctive names identifying products originating from a specific region. I talked about this in my wine video, for example. The EU-Japan EPA provides a higher level of protection for GIs, covering a wider range of products and offering stronger enforcement mechanisms. The UK-Japan CEPA covers fewer GIs and has less stringent enforcement provisions. And both agreements aim to liberalize trade in services, but the EU-Japan EPA goes further in opening up markets for service providers. It covers a broader range of services sectors and provides more favorable terms for EU businesses seeking to operate in Japan. The UK-Japan CEPA is less ambitious in liberalizing services trade, and that for a service nation. The EU-Japan EPA includes provisions for regulatory cooperation in various areas such as automotive standards, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. This cooperation aims to reduce trade barriers and facilitate the movement of goods between the two parties. The UK-Japan CEPA has less extensive provisions for regulatory cooperation. The EU-Japan EPA is estimated to boost the EU economy by 1.7 billion euros annually. The UK-Japan CEPA is expected to have a smaller positive impact on the UK economy, which estimates ranging from 1.5 to 5 billion over 15 years. In conclusion, the EU-Japan EPA is generally considered to be a more comprehensive and beneficial agreement for the EU than the UK-Japan CEPA is for the UK. The EU-Japan EPA offers deeper tariff reductions, stronger protection for GIs, more extensive services liberalization, and broader regulatory cooperation. As a result, it is likely to have a more significant positive impact on the EU economy. And that's where you see where the strength lies in numbers. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.